So with Joe Biden dropping out from his re-election campaign, there was an absolute shot of adrenaline right into the ass cheek of the Democratic Party. So now the number I'm about to give you right now is actually a little bit out of date. I'm sure it's at least $10 million higher by the time I'm talking to you. But as of 9 p.m. Eastern time, the day that Biden dropped out, grassroots supporters have raised $46.7 million through Act Blue following Kamala Harris's campaign launch. It's been the biggest fundraising day of the 2024 cycle. And again, small dollar donors were absolutely just throwing money at Kamala Harris. Look, this was one of the concerns about if it's not Biden. There was fundraising problems with Biden, but people were concerned about money without Biden. And one of the reasons people floated as, oh, it has to be Kamala Harris is because she's the one who can access the funds that were given to Biden and Harris. And that's hundreds of millions of dollars, I believe. So she could get that handed right to her, no problems whatsoever. A different candidate, there would be a little bit of an issue there, right? Now, you could apparently give that money to a Democratic super PAC, and then the super PAC could spend it on ads for whoever the Democratic candidate ends up being. But again, it looks like all the momentum, all the energy, and the direction that everything's been pushed is for Kamala Harris. So now she'll have the war chest of the money that remained from Biden. And now, again, $50 million in one day. Biggest fundraising day in 4 years. That's a big deal, man. So I really do believe that Democrats are excited to just not have Biden anymore. You know, and I do think the American people will feel like, okay, we have a candidate who's not ancient. We have a candidate who's not over the age of 75. Wow, that's kind of crazy. And so, I don't know, there are upsides to this that we didn't really conceive of previously. I also think Kamala Harris is in an interesting position because Biden was doing very, very well with like older voters. And so removing him from the equation means the Democratic numbers probably drop a little bit with that particular demographic. But at the same time, you'd have to imagine that a lot of the young voters who make up a key constituency of the Democrats, a lot of those young voters who are abandoning Biden, particularly over his Gaza policy, they might come back for Kamala to give her a chance. Because the reporting behind the scenes is she's certainly not as hawkish or Zionist as Biden is. She is still a Zionist, but she was pushing for more sympathetic language towards Palestinians every time Biden would talk about the issue, and she was reportedly more of a moderating voice on it. I'm sure she's going to disappoint us 1,000 different ways, but you can't be much worse as a Democrat than Biden is on the issue of Israel. And so that might be something that brings back Arab Americans and Muslim Americans, brings back young Americans, and she might suffer with older voters who were looking more at Biden, but she might make up for it and then some with younger voters. And again, this massive fundraising day, I think, is good evidence that people are sort of breathing a sigh of relief that we're dealing with a non-Trump and non-Biden candidate now. I think that, I certainly feel that, right? I certainly feel that. And I think Kamala Harris is the second weakest candidate to run against Trump behind Biden, or in front of Biden, I guess I should say. She's the second weakest candidate, but it's still like, thank God, at least it's not Biden. Every time he opens his mouth, you're holding your breath, hoping he can get through the sentence. So huge fundraising numbers. Again, I'm sure as of the recording of this segment, this has increased at least $10 million more dollars. I mean, people are just really going in on this. Now, I did want to share this with you guys also. This was the reporting early yesterday. Some Democratic donors and officials are reaching out to Senator Joe Manchin to consider standing for the presidential nomination, per two people familiar with the discussions. Manchin is now considering re-registering as a Democrat to offer Democrats an alternative to VP Harris. Per several sources familiar with the discussions, no final decision has been made, but talks continue tonight in his inner circle. So in other words, this is the donors who are the most right-wing Democratic donors, like the no labels types. They're like, please, Senator Manchin, get in so we can get more tax cuts, but also you protect abortion. Like this, it's those kinds of people, right? And a number of outlets were reporting this, but you had Joe Manchin come out just a few hours ago and say, no, I'm not going to run for president. I don't need that. Thank God. By the way, if he did throw his hat in the ring at a Democratic convention, he would get obliterated. There's literally no way Democratic voters would have backed Manchin. Manchin is responsible for killing like 75% of the Build Back Better agenda. That would have been the biggest transformation of our economy since the New Deal. There were a lot of phenomenal things in the original Build Back Better deal. He's the reason 75% of that was killed. And so Democratic voters, he would have gotten quite a surprise from Democratic voters with just how much they fucking hate him and dislike. I mean, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are like number 1 and 2 on the list of like the worst of the worst Democrats. I mean, they make Biden look like fucking Noam Chomsky, right? So, just horrible. So, it was floated it was going to be him. Now he's saying, no, it's not going to be me. There's really not much chatter of anybody jumping in. I mean, I think Marianne Williamson threw her hat in the ring, but obviously she doesn't have any of the connections to the Democratic delegates and the party elite. So, and the party elite are going to be the one who decide this. So, that's very, very unlikely. Outside of her, like I said, Newsom's people were floating around a memo of, look, he polls against Trump better than Kamala does. But Newsom himself has come out and endorsed Kamala, so it doesn't look like he's going to follow through. So, I mean, I think this is just where we are now. And the Democrats are going to have to make do. But certainly those fundraising numbers are quite a story. It shows that there truly is enthusiasm for a non-Biden candidate. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.